Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom family. You guys, all the way from Texas, we have Dr. Chen, and she is going to talk to you about what she's up to, who she is, and all of the great stuff that she has going on there in Texas. Sherry, you want to tell the Fearless Freedom Tribe what you're all about?
Hi, yeah, Charmaine. Thanks for having me on your show, all the way from Texas and Michigan.
Texas!
We're our own country down here, so basically, lots
That's what
to
I
learn.
hear. That's what I hear.
Just I'm excited to be here. Really, just share my journey, and we can all learn a little bit from each other. So happy to dig in, the dirty stuff, the fears, the failures, the messy stuff.
Love it. Love it. So you're a doctor, right? What kind of medicine do you practice?
Yeah, so I'm an internal medicine hospitalist here. Yep. So I'm about my 5th year out of training now. Have and always will be a hospitalist. Suits me well for both as a profession and as also as a lifestyle too. I guess I got lucky that way. It matched up both for me.
Awesome. And then you have so beyond doctoring, you have some things that you do. You want to tell the Fearless Freedom Tribe what else you do besides doctoring?
Yeah, so I started, a company investment firm last year for physicians. It's called the Real Estate Physician. And so that was basically after, my own, successes, failures, trials, learning about investment because we don't get taught that, right? And so I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years, and I thought it would be nice to share within our own physician community the things I've learned. And so that's what I also do on the side as well.
So how did you end up getting into real estate investment to start? Because you mentioned this has been you've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years. So you did this right outside of residency, like as soon as you got done, or were you kind of putting feelers out while you were in residency? How did that all come about?
Yeah, no. So I certainly, in residency, and even outside of it, when we first started as attendings, I was, in stocks, in our 401k. What we're taught. And I think, a common or a thread that's common in my life is I've always been a very curious person. And so that leads to asking questions, that leads to exploring other options, listening to what other people are doing out there. And that's kind of how I started exploring real estate, as I became an attending, made a little more money and, started asking myself questions. And really, it's funny because it didn't start with financial questions. It wasn't like how much money do I want to make in investments or anything like that. It started with how do I be more intentional with my life? And it really just so happens finances are a very integral everyday part of your life, right? Like your rent, whatever,
Yes.
Money is just a part of life. And so it actually started from being intentional with what I wanted with my life rather than, let's talk about investments. And so that's kind of how I started that path.
So you mentioned that the initial questions that you had, was it that you were driving in a neighborhood and you said, man, that house looks really cool. I wonder what would happen if I fixed it up and started renting it out? Or was it kind of, someone around you was doing real estate and your interest was piqued about it? Like, so what was it that kind of turned you on to that? Because there's so many things, so many avenues out there that we can kind of get into. So I think we're curious about how exactly you got interested and so what led up to that?
Sure. I think I'm like, most everybody, we don't have any knowledge of really anything outside
Pretty
of,
much.
our job, 401k and medicine. But, I think like most people, I was like, oh, well, let me look at a single family rental. Like that'd be so cool if I had my own Airbnb and I rented it out and I could decorate it and all that stuff. Right. And so that's my first question. I think most people's questions when you think real estate, you think of a single family rental. That's kind of the most logical step in your brain. And that's kind of how I started down that path. And then it was from there where I didn't even know there was anything outside of that really. Right. Like, and so I start asking myself questions, start Googling online, start reading forums. Of course, also something else I learned, as doing business or just in life, there's always somebody out there who's done something you want to do.
Absolutely.
And in today's age where there's podcasts or there's blog, and you can find anything on the internet. And that's kind of how I, discovered there's other ways to invest out, even within real estate, so broad outside of getting your own rental. And so
Gotcha.
that's basically how my journey started.
Okay. And then, so when you started posing these questions, the next step that you actually got to the point where you did purchase that first property, or was it that you had done so much more research and realized that there were other options that you decided to do the other options first?
Yeah, good question. So actually, I did not end up purchasing a single family rental, and I went straight into what I do now, which is I am a passive investor in a large apartment unit.
Okay.
And I put my money into that. There are a lot of, benefits and kind of going back into, what I was talking about earlier. It's, well, how do I want to design my life? And investment is just a part of it. And so what I learned about investing in syndications, which I do now, is where you pool your money with other investors into a larger property like an apartment. Me personally, because one, I wanted to be passive in terms of I do medicine. I love my job. I don't want to go hunt for deals or look at properties or be called in the middle of the night should there be a potential problem.
Right.
So being on the passive side where somebody can take care of that for me and find the deals, and I'm then putting my capital, and I call that trading my money for time, because in this way my money is giving me income and I don't have to lose effort or time into managing the property. So for me, that was a good fit based on the questions I asked myself, not only as an investor, but what kind of life and how is this investment going to fit into my life?
Nice. Yeah, so that core value lineup is important.
Yeah.
Making sure that whatever you're doing aligns up with that, so that you're not stepping over your boundaries there, personal boundaries.
Yeah. And I guess, and just important, I guess other lessons I learned is just that, as, there's the opportunity cost of your time, and so much of our physician livelihood, we gave up 7-10 years of that to our training. So I even now, everything I do, I really ask those questions. What is the opportunity cost? What is the highest, best use of my time? And just because I can do something, does that mean I should? All those are questions I kind of ask in regards to, just being more intentional and not just going with whatever everyone else is doing. Or if you are, why is that a good fit for you? Right.
No, I love it. That's a great pearl. We definitely we need to hear that. Definitely.
Yeah.
And then, so you got to you said, okay, I think I want to learn more about real estate. So you started with the single family home as the potential model. And then you discovered that you could be in this, it sounds like an aggregate type of investment situation.
Yeah, syndications is what they're called.
Syndications. Thank you for the terminology correction. So you got into the syndication investment model, which has been working really well. And then, so now how it sounds like you are paying it forward by educating other physicians about this entity and this modality. So can you speak more about that?
Yeah. And, there's a lot of fear in that story because one, it's, physicians, we don't really talk about finances, or we don't usually talking about it, much less, sharing, and then much less creating a company around it. And certainly I think there's a lot of other lessons I learned as far as, well, you're not only creating a business outside of medicine, it's in finances, and then it's in real estate where it's so male dominant. Like, I can't even speak to the amount of times where I've been the only female and I look like I'm, 20 years old, and it just feels so awkward.
Right,
so,
right. But
all
you're a
of that.
boss, so that doesn't matter, right?
Exactly. All of that is, now that I see it as a strength, being who you are, being your individual self is definitely a strength, and not a weakness. And so, now basically, the Real Estate Physicians platform, two missions. One really is to share everything I've learned, kind of synthesize that for you, right? I mean, a lot of stuff out there, but it is also very overwhelming. And so the whole point is, synthesize what I've learned, in a digestible way. And I do that through just phone calls with people and then I answer, really any questions you may have that may take you, a month or two to figure out. I can just tell you because I know it, right?
Right.
And then our platform. And I just also finished writing my book. So hopefully
Yay!
that'll be helpful. And just
When is that coming out?
a lot of fear in that, but just sharing that information, and I see it really as kind of a parallel to what I do as a physician.
Yeah, sure.
We get educated and you inform people to make an educated, informed decision. That's really all there is to it. And so that's why I think I also really enjoy doing this part of the business.
Awesome. And so you have to tell us the name of the book and when it's going to be released. Where can people find it?
Oh, gotta put me on the spot.
That's right. That's right.
To finish it. And I've never written a book, but so it's called The Physician's Definitive Guide to Commercial Real Estate Syndication. So
Okay.
I'm finishing that up. And, my goal is to have it out by the end of the year, but I'll give myself,
okay, you got to give it a date. No. You have to give it a date. You have to put that date on your calendar.
I'm going to put before December 31st, 2019. How about that? Okay. Is that good?
All right. That is good. That is good, because that is going to be pivotal to making sure that it gets done. Because okay. You know they say about goals, making them smart, time. Time is the key, right? Like, when is it going to happen? Because then you can reverse engineer from that time, that date. Versus if you make it nebulous, you just won't ever, you have no impetus to finish. There's no deadline.
Yeah, I'm almost done. But now, now that you're almost done, it's almost weirder because it's like, now I'm like, oh God, did I put something wrong in there? Is there misinformation? Do I need more? And then it just becomes a cycle of like, well, what if I put it out there and people hate it and be like, this is the dumbest guide I've ever seen. And So, but I will finish it. I'll send you a copy.
Yes, please do. Please do. And I will promote it for sure. I mean, I think that right there that you mentioned is an interesting thing that you say, because a lot of authors do feel that way, or if you're an entrepreneur, you're on a project, you're putting something together, you're putting a program together, you're putting a course together, you tend to do the lion's share of the work. And when you're getting to that last piece, the final touches to really push it out there, something in your mind, or I don't know, internally says, let's not get it. Let's not put it out there, so you start hearing like those, the fear talking, like, what if there's some misinformation in there? You can do an errata. Okay. You could correct that post publication. You can do so many things. So it's a matter of getting it out there. That's going to really be key, because guess what? Your tribe is waiting to hear it, right? I mean, clearly your tribe is waiting. So, I mean, from the success of your success as a real estate physician, like, basically your tribe is waiting. They're waiting to hear from Dr. Chen, and Dr. Chen needs to get her book out by December 31st. Boom. That's it.
Love the pep talk there.
I'm just saying.
The story.
I'm just saying. Period.
No,
done.
I agree. Yeah, it's really weird how those voices came up, because I thought, I was like, I think I'm done. I just one last run through, we'll get it out there. And then this past week, as I'm, looking at it, I was like, oh my gosh, I left this out, or I don't know, is that correct? Maybe I will check myself. And then you're like, oh gosh, if I put it out there and it sucks, nobody will trust me anymore. So yeah, all those voices came here at the end of the week.
That's fair. You gotta like say, back away, step aside, because I'm coming.
I'm gonna channel Charmaine as I finish this book.
That's right. That's right. Because you know what? I need to get that copy so I can start like promoting it for real.
That's
Like this.
true.
That's it. That's
Awesome.
that. It's done.
Done. I'll get back to you on that for sure.
Okay. Sweet. Sweet. All right, cool. And so you have the book coming out on December 3rd. Well, it's going to be done and ready for release December 31st, right?
You got it.
And then do you have any courses or anything like that through the site or through the company?
No, I don't. And, I think because the company's 1 year old, it's still growing and I'm still growing with it.
Okay.
I think as long as I stick to, our missions and values of, sharing this kind of investment and informing people to whichever form that takes. And that has to go back to, just me being very intentional. And also how do I, balance my time with that versus right now it's a lot of, individual investor phone calls, which I really enjoy, right? Because I can,
Okay.
take each and address them. So we'll see. Maybe there will be a course.
Okay. So right now it's one-on-one kind of contact. We're not quite at the point where you're doing like a group type of scenario through a course. Got it.
Right.
Okay. All right. But that may be iteration coming in 2020.
Yes. After I talk to you more.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't know you're going to come on here and get coached, did you?
Oh my God. Yeah. So we'll see. It is a power, you can get it out there, but there's also power to individual and personal touch. So
absolutely. Particularly when you're talking about something where, there's probably, not a minimal investment we're talking about, right? So when we're talking about a larger sum of money, that one-to-one is key because that is going to really help to kind of move things along and vet concerns. So yeah, no, I think that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. So a quick thing. So do you, so with the syndication, do you just do like apartment buildings? Like, is it just residential stuff or is there any corporate real estate that you all invest in? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So what commercial real estate is just means, bigger units. The real definition of if something is greater than 5 units, it's commercial real estate. So that's why apartments are considered, even though you think it's residential, right? And that's where a duplex or a quad, we don't consider commercial estate because it's less than 5 units. So that's the technical definition. And so other things in that category would be like a self-storage unit, mobile home parks, medical office buildings, retail. So we haven't done retail. We are more so focused on where the data has been shown to be more recession resilient. Everyone needs a roof over their heads. Everyone needs a place to store things. We recently got started in the medical office building space, which is really awesome because, something we understand makes sense. Yeah. Nothing is more I guess recession proof than medicine and your health. We're going to need that no matter what times. And so it's exciting. And, we continue to grow and see different investment opportunities. And so one is, we put our money into these projects as investors ourselves and then just share the nice opportunities we find that might be a good fit for other people.
So so just a little brief introduction to this. So how do you find the projects? So you mentioned that the reason for doing things this way is such that you're not getting called in the middle of the night for repairs, or you're not having to go out and find the opportunities. So who is doing that? Who does that part of things?
Yeah, so we call them, deal sponsors or the lead sponsors or general partners. Just think of it as these, not so much as a, living space. Think of it as a business. An apartment, just think of it as a business. A self-storage is a business. So in any business, you have the owners, right? They're responsible for analyzing. They're responsible for looking at that specific market. Is it a good fit? Do the demographics work? Do the finances work? Does it pencil out? And then how are we going to, operate and execute on the business plan once we buy it, right?
Right.
So think of it as a business, because that's the best way to look at it. And that's also how we evaluate these opportunities. What is the income? What is the expenses? So that makes it very objective, which is why part of the reason I like it. And then you have that scale. So a professional management company is managing it for you. So those are, kind of the subtle differences versus if you had a single family, where it really depends how the market is around it, right? Just because you put, I don't know, $100,000 into your kitchen doesn't mean you can sell your home for $100,000 more, right?
Right.
So
that is so true.
What the house next to you is doing. So it's very different in the valuation and financing of these properties, which is what makes it, I think, more advantageous as an investor in terms of, your risk.
Ah, interesting. And then, so what's a typical return on the investment? Is it like a 5-year deal or a 10-year deal? Like, what are the typical setups that you all have with syndication?
Illiquid, it's not like the stock market where you can decide to pull out tomorrow, right?
Okay.
But that's also why we might not have the volatility or unpredictability. Just because our president says something, or just because somebody in the world does something, the stock market could drop tomorrow, right? Or it could go up or down. This apartment community, if there's 95 people living there today out of 100, tomorrow there's likely going to be 95 people out of 100 people living there, right? So it's more stable, it's more predictable. Our projects are usually 5 years long, so the money you put in is potentially money you don't want to use for the next 5 years, because we consider it illiquid in the investment project, right? So that's a big difference. And so when you're looking at investments, personally, does that fit you? Or if you want to be very liquid, then this would not be a good option, right?
I see. And then, so you have, whatever that sum is that you put into the initial project to get it started. And then we understand that that sum is locked for the extension of the duration of the project. So whether it's 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. So during that time, is there any income coming from the project?
Yeah. So no, that's a really good question. So most of the projects, I would say yes, because those are what we like, but it depends. So when we put our money in, I would say like our bread and butter are stabilized apartment buildings. They've already been built. People already live in there. So if we go purchase it tomorrow, there's already people paying rent, right? So between when you put your money in and potentially us selling it in 5 years, you're actually getting cash flow from the project years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Got it.
And just to kind of answer your question, right now where the market is and kind of the projects we're looking at that are stable properties, you could see about 7-8% return of your investment on an annual basis coming back to you. And that's one thing that's also different from stocks, right? This is money in your pocket throughout the year. That's also tax advantaged. We can go over that later or in the book or whatnot, but in stocks.
Yes, to the book. Yes, I love it. Love it.
The
plug for the book.
Money, in your pocket until you sell it, right? So it's unrealized, maybe in 30 years, or if you do sell it, it's taxed very heavily as your ordinary income tax rate. So there's big differences between the two, and that's why I think, like I said, then once you're informed, then maybe this is a good fit, or maybe it's not a good fit. But first step is to just get educated and get informed.
And then I guess the next question that people are probably have in their minds is, what kind of sums are we talking about? I mean, could you potentially get involved in something like this with $2,000, or do you need larger sums of money, like $20,000, $100,000? Like what is the entry? Like, what is I guess I would see that as a kind of a barrier to entry. So like, what would you say the entry level or typical investment would be?
Yeah, so the way we do it with private syndications, the typical investment is 50,000, sometimes 25. So that is a pretty big number. And it can be a barrier to entry. There's, pros and cons of that. Just to, complete the picture, people have, looked at crowdfunding platforms like I think Fundrise or CrowdStreet or, a bunch of those platforms you can see online. Those are lower minimums like 500 or 1,000 or $5,000, where you can put your money into similar assets like apartments or self-storage at a lower entry point. So it is possible. There's just differences between, well, do I have access to the sponsor who's putting the deal together? Do I know how they got their numbers? What exactly is their business plan? If I have a question, can I call them up? Those are difference between private syndications versus, well, I'm going through a platform and putting my money in, and they also might take asset management fees. So, but there's a lower point to entry. So, subtle differences. Again,
Trade-offs. Yeah, you got trade-offs there.
Yeah, trade-offs.
And then and probably, the other side of that is not really the other side, but like the other thing with that is likely if your investment is lower, then your return will also be lower. Would that be an appropriate conclusion to draw, or?
Let's say, yeah, your absolute returns are lower because it's based off your investment amount.
Gotcha.
But as far as, well, this project yields 7% or 10%, those will be unchanged because that's based on the project itself. But if you invest a lower amount, your absolute returns probably lower. Yeah.
Neat. Wow. Okay. This is very interesting to me because I literally, when I first got out of residency, and that was a long time ago, by the way.
We don't know how long it's okay.
It's like 15 years. I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm just saying it's a long time. And so, I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and part of what he said there was, you have to have properties and all these things, and I was super excited, so I went ahead and took a real estate course at a local community college, and I just remember telling my husband, like, can you believe that you can like purchase a whole bunch of mobile homes and you can do like rent to own for all these people, and it will help them to be able to own a property. And I was like super excited about it. And my husband said, wait, are you going to become a slumlord? I said, I'm not going to be a slumlord.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I hear that too, people have certain perceptions about, but these are the daily apartments you drive by, right? These are communities where people live in, and we take care of the people. We actually go in and improve their living conditions, You usually buy apartments that aren't well managed and that have been neglected. We go in, put in a new gym. We upgrade the units. We actually take care of their concerns rather than a neglected owner who, doesn't come fix a work order for a month or something like that. So we actually,
so it's like an uplift almost.
You're improving. We built dog parks, for instance, or put in new grill or fix the pool. So you're actually improving the conditions of the property for the tenants. But yeah, everyone has different perceptions around real estate, and it's still such a big broad term to just say real estate. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny. God, are you gonna be a slumlord? I was like, no, I'm gonna be a slumlord. I just want to try this, and I'm not sure what to do. So needless to say, it could have been 15 years where I was, building up properties and whatnot, but it didn't happen that way. But I'm always kind of like listening because I'm curious still about how one would enter and how one would have success without because the thing I think that was the stumbling block for me personally was, in the course they were saying, you have to go and you have to find these deals. And, I started like looking around the neighborhood, like, okay, well, that house might be a good one, but then it needs to be fixed up. And then, all of the things that went along with, getting a deal and then, then figuring out how to, advertise the property, vet the people who are going to be living there. It just seemed like a lot of work. So
Yeah.
that was what deterred me from pushing ahead. But yeah, no, this model definitely sounds like a model that is a lot less as far as those type of things to have to deal with and time investment. So yeah, no, I think this is genius. It's great. And so
I wish
how
I
does
invented it right now. So no, people
well, it doesn't
have
matter if you didn't
been
invent it, but I mean,
no,
you're
people have been
perpetuating it, so
investing
that's
this
good.
way, forever. It's just we don't hear about it, and we've been limited to stocks or Wall Street. But this is not something I invented. This has been around forever,
Right.
And so, like questions like you ask yourself, like, well, how active do I want to be versus how passive do I want to be? How much control do I want, or am I okay giving up control to somebody? When we say, I think when we say we give up control, there's some fear around that, right? And
Right,
so,
right.
I ask, I guess dig a little further. It's like, well, I don't want control of this property. I don't want to be the one to be called at 12 a.m. to go in there. I
Right.
don't want to be the one who has to, manage it. And so in this instance where I give up control, I happily do that for the time that I can buy back for myself.
Nice. And so here's another question that probably comes up. How is this type of investment different from, what is that one called? Is it a REIT it's called? The grouped real estate? Is that, do you know what I'm talking about? How is it different from that?
Oh yeah, sorry. Different from which group? Sorry, you
The
cut out for a
REIT,
second.
I guess it's like
Uh-huh.
you put your money in and then it's, I don't know if it's stocks or if they put it into different real estate projects. I'm not quite sure how it works exactly, but how would this syndicate be different from a REIT?
Yeah, no, good question. So, a couple differences. So, REITs are, publicly traded companies on Wall Street, so you can go buy a share, right? So,
Okay.
one, it's liquid. You could say I want to sell my shares in this REIT tomorrow. It's liquid. But two, also being in Wall Street, it's more correlated with the ups and downs. So there's more swings and volatility with that because people can sell and buy whenever they want, right? So that provides it's a double-edged sword in that aspect, right?
Okay.
And then REITs, you're actually buying shares of a company, right? Versus a syndication, you are actually an equity owner in a piece of real estate.
Got it.
So that has one big implication being REITs, they have to make distributions or dividends to you. So that's actually taxed also at your ordinary income level because you're not owning a piece of the real estate, you're owning a share of a company.
Ah,
So that's taxed, it's not as tax advantage where if I own the real estate, I actually get passed on depreciation benefits of a real estate property where that's why we say these distributions that are coming to me at 7 to 8%, I'm not paying taxes on that because I technically own a piece of the property. I get to benefit from the depreciation of the real estate. So rather than owning a share of a company, I'm not directly owning a piece of the property in a REIT.
wow. That's a
Yeah.
big difference.
Big
That's a
differences.
big difference.
Yeah,
Wow.
and pros and
Okay.
cons, right? Because lots of people are very comfortable with REITs and versus some like me, I'm totally comfortable with syndications. I'm like, why would I put my money into a company that, etc. But like once again, know the differences and see which
Right.
one makes more sense to you.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that because clearly.
It took me, it probably took me 3 years to figure that one out. Honestly, I don't, but
No, that's awesome.
you
That's
don't
like
know the
gold right
options.
there.
Yeah. So like
Wow.
you asked the good questions because, a lot of people always ask what's the difference between a REIT or crowdfund or a private syndicate. Those are the, versus
Yeah.
a single family. And so, and you just, we just cover that,
Yeah. No,
briefly.
that's awesome. That is awesome. Wow. I hope you guys are listening to this. This is like amazing information. Okay.
I should just record it and put it in the book.
You should. You should.
Yeah. No, of course I cover that. So because these are the frequently asked questions, anybody would think of, so.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Do that. Cool. All right. So now let's get to, so you talked about how you got interested. We talked about the concept behind the company. Let's talk about any fear you might have had with launching the real estate
Yeah.
physician. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yes, a lot. And I mean, so even when I launched it, I didn't tell anybody, 'cause,
Oh my
um,
goodness.
yeah. So because, I mean, I wanted to get out to my audience, right? My audience is physicians like me. I understand our struggles and
Right.
kind of what our barriers would be because one, at the end of the day, you have limited bandwidth. You're not going to go read about REITs versus crowdfunding, like and if you had time, that's not where you want to be spending your time or going to conferences to meeting
Right.
people.
Right.
And so when the company launched last year was, okay, well, how can I get this to the people that I want to get it to, which are people I understand, and I know how to serve, physician colleagues. So, I was on other physician podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it. And maybe some physician forums. But that's about it. I didn't, market or advertise or get anything out there, which, actually, I've come to see, it really is, well, who are you targeting and how do you get to them? And there's a lot of
Absolutely.
advice out there by a lot of people on how do you do sales, how do you market and all this. And I sit back and it's, well, I don't do any of that, or really think about how your company or what you're trying to do, fits into the picture. There is no recipe. There is no formula. There's probably good practices, just like medicine, but
Right.
everything can be so individual. And the real strength just comes from me being as a physician myself. So I kind of
Right.
understand, what other physicians are thinking. That's all.
No, that's great. No, you are absolutely right. I mean, you did all the things, right? You did market big by getting on podcasts that physicians are listening to. So that is marketing. That is getting to your target audience. You don't, you're correct in that you don't always have to have like a presence on any of these particular social media platforms in order to get clientele, because a lot of times what happens is that you get your best clients from referrals. So you may have gone on a show and then you may have acquired a client as a consequence of that encounter, and then they've had a great experience with you, and then they share you and your name, your company with their colleagues and friends. That's really a really robust and effective way to grow your business without having to spend money on advertising dollars. So yeah, no, I think you did a great job with that.
You're absolutely right on that. Yeah, absolutely. It is marketing actually. So now that you say it like that, but yeah, and with referrals, people you trust, kind of your tribe. So for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the tribe is definitely gonna gravitate to you because, like you mentioned, this is not the space that you're currently in is not a space that is devoid of other physicians doing this, right? But you're unique because you are a female physician doing this. There are not a lot of female physicians who are doing this. So, you already have basically delineated, even within the group, your people, you know? And so that makes a huge difference. Like when you're targeting a specific avatar, they call it. When you're targeting a specific avatar, so I don't know if it's all females that come to you, but I would imagine that quite a lot of females come to you. So, you're targeting, the female physician who's interested in another income stream and perhaps interested in real estate, and you target that. What will happen is, that is a huge subset, right? And then but it's a unique subset. It's not one where that space is crowded. The real estate space is crowded, probably. I don't even know if the physician real estate space is crowded, but I'm sure there's at least more than one person doing it. But I don't believe, and from what I've seen in our, in the Facebook groups and whatnot, that the female physician interested in real estate space is crowded. So kudos to you, sister, for rocking it.
Thank you. And thank you for your podcast. Yeah. I also had a terribly dying fear of public speaking. And I guess I would consider podcast public speaking. I don't
It
know if you
is.
consider that, but I mean, I was like, I would, in like middle school, high school, I'd rather get a 0 in classes, which is awful because, we usually get good grades, but
That's
I'd
right.
rather get a 0 than speak up in class. I just would not. And so, yeah, you got to conquer your fears, right? So,
That's right. That's right. That's right. Now my new mantra is do something scary every single day. So whatever that is, it doesn't have to be anything huge. It could just be something real simple. Like, I don't know,
mhm.
maybe you're afraid to call the dentist office and make an appointment. I don't know, whatever. But you do something scary every day. And what ends up happening is that your courage bank just really gets robust and filled up. And then when you have to do those giant things, like, I don't know, get on a stage in front of a couple hundred people and share your story, then it's that much easier. So yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the fear of public speaking is something that is not unique to me. It's not unique to you. It is one of the top fears when people are polled about what are your fears. And then public speaking is like top of the list. So yeah, no, it's real. The struggle is real.
Yeah, no, and just to like bounce, off of what you said, because it's, I mean, fear is it's just another sensation, right? It's something, it's fear because you don't know what it feels like. You've never done it. Just
Right.
like, I don't know, I could have, like in med school, I was horrified of codes or the ICU because you've never done it. But if you're educated and you get exposed to it, now you're like, that's a piece of cake, right?
That's right. Or you at least know what to do, which is
Something else
like
I've
part of
learned
it.
just is that, yeah, it's usually it's not the fear of, I think this is a quote and I'm going to botch it up, but like, we're not really fearful of our jump. It's not the jump that scares us, but it's the landing. And if
Oh
you can,
yeah.
if you can have a soft landing or a protected or supported landing, then you shouldn't be scared. Just like, if we have residents, we have attendings, it's okay if I run a code because I have all this support staff around me, in a learning supportive environment. Just random example, and
Oh
so
yeah,
that also
absolutely.
has helped me when I consider, well, what's the worst that it could happen, or even if I jump and fail, I'm in like, good hands or whatnot.
Right, right. No, that's true. That's so true. So, so true. Oh my goodness. This has been such a great conversation, Sherry. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Yeah. And I can't believe we don't know each other like in person. That's just so funny to me. But then again,
I
it's
know.
not that funny because there's so many people that I have been connected with that, I vibe with. And I'm like, oh my God, you'd be so cool if we could just go have a coffee. But they're
Yeah.
elsewhere in the country and we just never really get a chance to connect in person. So it is
I
what it is.
know.
I'm just glad for the
Well,
network.
I'm gonna put you out there because I've been thinking about like a in-person conference.
Okay.
And maybe we can work on that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing beats in person, I think.
I
Obviously
agree with
podcasts
you. I
great
agree with you on
mediums,
that.
but
I think
to
there's so
meet
much
people in
power.
person, yeah,
Yes.
is
Yeah, there's
very
a lot of power
powerful.
to that for sure. For sure. Awesome. Yes, let's do it. 2020. Boom, done. Oh my gosh. All right. So, are you ready? Because we are going to be wrapping it up now. And so, we usually end the show. This is a tradition. We end the show with fill in the blanks. Are you ready for the fill in the blanks? Dr. Chen,
I'm
are
gonna do
you
my best.
ready? Are you ready? Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So, the first one is if I am fearless, I will.
If I am fearless, I will live a, a life by my design, and that's me being intentional. So, life by my own design, being intentional with my life.
Awesome. To me, fearless freedom means.
To me, fearless freedom means living with no regrets.
Love it. Love it. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
um, my battle cry is It sounds like I'm worth it. You're worth it. Whatever you want to say, it's worth it. And for me, that encompasses a lot of things. One, just if you have something that's itching at you or that's been scratching at you, an idea or even a fear, like I think it's worth to explore that. Give yourself permission to explore. Um, and the space to explore that, and because we really only have one life, and it's not going to be your successes or failures. Every smarter person than me that I know of has said, at the end of your life, it's going to be the regrets. So I think whatever it is, you're worth it, to go explore that.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chen, for being on Fearless Freedom. The tribe is appreciative. I'm appreciative. And we're definitely looking out for the book release, December 31st, 2019, and all the other amazing things that are coming up for you and the real estate physician in 2020. So we appreciate you. We love you. And thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate it as well.
Thank you for joining us today on this journey. Fear is all around us. It strives to stop us from achieving our greatness. We have the tools to be overcomers. By sharing our stories, supporting each other, and doing self-reflection, we can do this. If you found value in this conversation today, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will help to get the word out about it. And that is much appreciated. Thanks again for spending time with us. I appreciate your time and your attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face today and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.